The crystal mines of Virex 9 were the pride of the Zalari Dominion. Deep under the surface of the glowing purple moon, thousands of tunnels stretched like veins, shining with raw energy crystals. Only the highest-ranking visitors were allowed to see them in person. That day, Queen Virelia herself came to inspect the mines. She walked with grace and power. Tall and silver-skinned, her eyes glowed faintly blue. Her royal guards followed closely, wearing armor made of living metal that shifted with their movements. The queen was quiet as she stepped into the glowing tunnels, her thoughts hidden behind a calm mask. "This mine powers a full quadrant," her advisor, Minister Yelth, said proudly. "The crystals here are unlike any in the sector. No other species can mine or refine them like we can." Virelia said nothing. She was already used to hearing how superior her people were. The Zalari believed they were the most advanced species in the galaxy. Most of the time, she believed it too. But something about the mine made her uneasy. They moved deeper into the labyrinth, where the walls pulsed with energy. A sudden tremor made a few guards look around nervously. "Another minor quake," said the site engineer. "Normal for this depth." They kept walking. A louder rumble stopped them in their tracks. The tunnel ahead shivered. The ground cracked. Without warning, a thunderous boom echoed through the shaft, and the floor collapsed beneath them. Screams, dust. Crystals fell like glass rain. Virelia was thrown to the side. She tried to stand, but pain shot through her leg. Her guards were buried under rock. One shouted her name, but then fell silent. Alone, she crawled into a side chamber, coughing. Her communicator was broken. The tunnel behind her was sealed in rubble. Darkness fell. Time passed, maybe hours, maybe more. Her mind spun with fear and anger. How could this happen to a queen? How could she, the most powerful woman in the Dominion, be trapped like this? Then, footsteps. Not Zalari. Heavy, slow, but steady. She held her breath. A shape appeared at the edge of the chamber, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing an odd, bulky suit. The face was hidden behind a black visor. The figure moved fast, shining, a strange tool around the debris. With strong arms, it began lifting rocks. Virelia couldn't speak. Her leg hurt too much. The figure turned toward her and nodded. "You're alive," a voice said through a speaker. The voice was deep, rough, but gentle. The stranger didn't wait for a reply. He picked her up with surprising care. Her body stiffened. No one touched the queen. But something about him, his calm, his focus, kept her still. The figure carried her through collapsed shafts, using strange tools to cut through stone and crystal. His suit sparked occasionally, and she realized it. Wasn't advanced Zalari tech. It was old, crude. Yet it worked. They reached an open air duct, barely wide enough for a person. The figure motioned for her to stay close. Together, they crawled for what felt like miles. At last, they reached the surface. The sky above was the soft blue of Virex 9's morning. Rescue ships hovered in the distance. Alarms rang. The figure laid her gently on the ground. Then, without a word, he turned to leave. "Wait!" she gasped. He paused, half-turned, his face still hidden. "Who are you?" The figure stood still for a moment. Then he said, "No one important." He walked away, disappearing into the smoke and rubble. By the time her guards found her, he was gone. No one knew where he had come from, or how he had reached the deepest tunnels before rescue teams. His suit didn't match any known Zalari designs. His tools were unfamiliar. There were no ID tags, no record, no trace. The incident was quietly removed from the official report. The queen had been rescued by her own people, they said. No mention of the stranger. But Virelia remembered. Late at night, she would hold a Small crystal he had dropped, a clear shard with strange human markings, and wonder who he was. She kept it hidden in her private chamber, a secret she told no one. For 10 years she thought of that moment, of being powerless and saved not by her army, not by her technology, but by a lone, silent figure who never asked for thanks. And, deep inside, she wondered something even more troubling. What if he wasn't Zalari at all? What if the one who saved her was human? 10 years had passed since the accident in the mines of Virex 9. Queen Virelia ruled with wisdom and strength, but something inside her had changed. She still led the Zalari Dominion, and her people still believed they were the most powerful species in the galaxy, but she no longer believed they were untouchable. The memory of that silent savior, the one who carried her out of the darkness, never left her mind. She had searched quietly, using private channels, but no one found anything. No record, no match. The strange tool he used, the armor, the language, none of it was Zalari. Deep inside, she began to believe the impossible. He might have been human. Humans were thought to be extinct, destroyed in the War of 17 Suns. Their homeworld had been turned to ash. The Zalari told stories of humans as reckless, violent, unpredictable beings who built strange machines and defied galactic laws. Most Zalari believed they were gone forever. Virelia wasn't so sure. She never told anyone. About her theory, a Zalari queen speaking kindly of humans would cause outrage, and there was no proof. Only a crystal with unreadable markings and a memory that haunted her dreams. But she would soon need more than memories. In the far edges of the galaxy, a new threat was growing. It began with a lost signal from Outpost, She-4. The station had stopped sending reports. Then, 2 patrol ships vanished. Then, entire mining colonies went silent. At first, the Zalari thought it was a rebellion. Then, pirates. But the truth was far worse. The Maltharak swarm had arrived. No one knew where they came from. Some said they were from another galaxy. Others believed they were the result of ancient bioweapons gone wrong. They didn't speak. They didn't negotiate. They moved like a living storm, spreading fast, destroying everything in their path. They were not machines, but not truly alive. Their ships were made of black organic matter pulsing with green light. Their soldiers looked like insects the size of tanks, with claws that melted metal and wings that tore through gravity fields. The Zalari fleets fought back with everything they had: laser barrages, shield domes, bioplasma warheads. It wasn't enough. The swarm adapted. They learned. Every attack only made them smarter. Within a month, the outer ring of the Dominion had fallen. Queen Virelia stood in her war chamber, staring at the red blots on the galactic map. One after another. Zalari. Planets were being crossed out. "We must use the orbital purifier," said Minister Yelth. "Burn the infected systems. Stop the spread." "No," Virelia said. "There are still civilians. We do not destroy our own." "Then we will lose everything," another general said. "Your Majesty, we need allies." "From where?" Yelth snapped. "No one will help us. The other species fear us. We never needed anyone." Virelia's voice was calm, but firm. "Then maybe it is time we change that." Everyone turned to her in shock. "What are you saying?" the general asked. "I am saying that we must ask for help," Virelia replied. "There are stories of survivors in the dead sectors, hidden colonies, resistance groups." "You speak of ghosts and exiles," Yelth said. "You cannot be serious." I'm very serious," she said. "If even a chance remains, if the humans survived." The chamber fell silent. A queen asking for help was unthinkable. A queen asking humans for help was a scandal. But no one argued. The map told its own story. The swarm would reach the capital in weeks. 2 days later, a secret ship left Zalari. Space. its mission. Find any human survivors, if they existed. Speak to them. Ask for an alliance. Virelia herself was aboard. She disguised her presence with a false name and a diplomatic mask. Only her most loyal guards knew who she was. The crew passed through dead systems, ruined outposts, and ghost stations. In the Varnak Belt, an area marked as uninhabitable, they found something strange, a signal, faint, but repeating. It didn't match any known language, but it carried a pattern, one humans used in the old days. They followed it to an asteroid field. There, hidden in the rocks, they found it. A fortress made from scrap metal and crashed ships. Held together by force fields and stubbornness. It should not have worked, but it did. Dozens of small, fast ships surrounded them. The crew prepared for a fight. Then a voice came through the comms. State your name and purpose. You are trespassing in Free Zone Delta. The voice was human. Virelia's heart raced. We come in peace, she said calmly. We are here to speak with your leader. A pause. Then, follow the beacon. No tricks. The ship docked inside a large chamber filled with strange machines, old tech, and handmade weapons. It was rough, dirty, and alive. Humans moved everywhere, some wearing armor, some repairing ships, some just watching the new arrivals. A tall man stepped forward. His presence was strong, his face weathered by time and war. He wore no crown, no uniform, but the way others stood behind him made it clear. He was the leader. Virelia looked at him, and her breath caught in her throat. She knew that face. Older now, with a scar on his brow, but it was him. The man who had saved her life. The human ghost she had searched for. He looked at her with calm, unreadable eyes. He didn't recognize her. Not yet. The docking bay of the human stronghold was full of noise, sparks, and life. Giant engines hummed overhead, and old earth music played softly in the background. Welding flames danced on the walls as workers fixed broken ships. It was not clean, not advanced, not organized like a Zalari facility, but it was alive. It had soul. Queen Virelia stepped carefully off the ship, her long cloak brushing the dusty floor. She wore a diplomatic mask, a silver veil over her face to hide her identity. Only 2 of her guards stood beside her. The rest waited on the ship. The tall man who had greeted them stood straight and calm. His eyes scanned her face with no sign of recognition. He had changed. His armor was made from different pieces, some human, some alien, all worn and patched. A scar ran across his brow like a line of fire. Still, Virelia knew it was him. The man who had saved her from the mine 10 years ago. She wanted to speak, to ask him why he had left without a word. But now was not the time. I am Leah Varn, she said, using her cover name. We are from the Zalari Dominion. We come to speak about an alliance. The man nodded slowly. I'm Commander Elias Rain, he said. Leader of the Free Zone Resistance. This way. He turned and walked through a metal hallway without waiting for a response. Virelia followed, her eyes taking in the strange world around her. The walls were filled with graffiti, names of ships, jokes in old human languages, and pictures of stars. Children ran past carrying tools. An old man gave her a curious glance but said nothing. This place was no palace, but it had purpose. It had spirit. They reached a large chamber that looked like a war room. Maps floated in the air, showing red marks across the galaxy, swarm locations. Human officers stood around, watching carefully. Elias turned to Virelia. Before we talk about alliances, I want to know something, he said. She met his eyes. What is it? Why now? He asked. The Zalari have ignored us for decades. They called us savages. Now you come knocking on our doors, asking for help. Why? She answered without flinching. Because we are losing, The room fell, silent. Virelia stepped closer. The Maltharax swarm is not like anything we've faced before. They cannot be reasoned with. Our weapons don't stop them. Our fleets fall one by one. You've survived on the edge of the galaxy. You've fought them and lived. We need your help. Elias looked at her carefully. And what do we get in return? He asked. The Zalari never gave us anything but warnings and threats. If we win together, she said, then we live together, as equals. For a moment, Elias didn't speak. His officers whispered among themselves, then he sighed. You're not the first Zalari to make promises, but you're the first to come in person. He turned to his people. Give them a place to rest. We'll talk more in the morning. Later, in the small quarters given to her, Virelia removed her mask and stared at the metal ceiling. Her thoughts swirled. He didn't recognize me. After all this time, he forgot. But how could he? She had never forgotten. That moment in the mine had changed her. She had been powerless, and he had lifted her like she was worth saving, not as a queen, but as a life. Her hand reached inside her robe and pulled out a small crystal shard, the same one he had dropped all those years ago. She still carried it. She thought about telling him. But would he believe her, or would he think it was a trick? Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock. One of her guards entered. Your Majesty, he whispered, bowing. The humans, they fight differently. We watched a few training sessions. Their weapons are old but clever. They use strategy like hunters, not soldiers. Good, she said quietly. That is what we need. The guard hesitated. But, do you trust them? Virelia looked out the window at the human ships floating in space. I trust one of them, she said, even if he doesn't remember me. Meanwhile, Elias stood in the main hall, watching the stars. His second in command, a sharp-eyed woman named Cora, walked up beside him. You don't trust them, she said. No, he replied. But I believe they're desperate. That makes them honest. Cora crossed her arms. She looked familiar to you? He shook his head. No, just another royal in fancy clothes. Still, Cora said. There's something different about her. Not like the others we've fought before. Elias didn't answer. But somewhere, deep in his mind, a small memory flickered. A glowing tunnel. A broken leg. A woman with glowing blue eyes. He shook his head. Too long ago. Just a dream. The next morning, Elias took Virelia on a tour of the resistance base. She saw human engineers working with alien scrap. She saw fighters made from junk but faster than anything the Zalari had. She saw young humans learning how to fight in tight teams like packs of wolves. You've done all this without help? She asked. No one offered any, Elias replied. They entered a hangar where a human pilot was showing Zalari guards how to use a magnetic slingshot cannon. Virelia smiled faintly. You are very creative. We had no choice, Elias said. When you're cornered, you get clever, or you die. He looked at her. And right now, Queen Virelia, you are very cornered. Her eyes widened slightly. You knew? I know now, he said softly. I remembered your eyes. She didn't know what to say. For the first time in 10 years, she felt her heart tremble. The room was quiet. For a long time, Queen Virelia and Commander Elias Rain stood there looking at each other. No guards, no politics, just two leaders with memories between them. I remember now, Elias said again. Viewership 9. You were trapped in that mine. I pulled you out. Virelia nodded slowly. You left before I could thank you. I wasn't looking for thanks, Elias said, shrugging. I just didn't want to see someone die down there. She tilted her head. You didn't know who I was? I didn't care. Virelia wasn't used to that kind of honesty. Most people treated her like she was more than a person, Elias had treated her like she was human, like she was someone worth saving without needing a reason. She took a deep breath. Things are different now. I'm not here as a queen. I'm here as someone who needs help. I can see that, Elias said, and I want to help, but my people, they don't trust yours. It's not just about the swarm. It's about history. The Zalari looked down on us for years. Some still do. Virelia understood. Trust is earned, not given. Elias smiled slightly. Good. Then let's earn it. The next few days were filled with work, arguments, and planning. The human base was a strange mix of chaos and order. Their systems were old but upgraded with salvaged alien tech. Their fighters were patched but fast. Their pilots were young but fearless. The Zalari, on the other hand, had sleek ships, clean armor, and military discipline. The two sides were complete opposites, and that led to problems. They don't follow protocol, growled Zalari Captain Trallin after a joint drill. Their pilots fly like wild animals. They call it freestyle combat, Virelia said calmly, and they win with it. They are unpredictable, reckless. Maybe that's what we need. Meanwhile, the humans had their own doubts. They think we're primitives with fancy toys, one human engineer complained. That tall alien looked at my rifle like it was a rock. They'll change their minds, Elias replied. Once they see what we can do. He wasn't wrong. In the next drill, human and Zalari teams were mixed together. The goal, defend a supply ship from a mock swarm attack. The Zalari used formation tactics, building a shield wall around the ship. The humans, instead of staying close, flew wide patterns and used flares, decoys, and sudden dives. At first, it looked messy, but when the simulated swarm drones attacked, the human tactics confused the enemy AI. The Zalari shield wall held firm, and the humans picked off drones from behind. The mission was a success. For the first time, the two groups clapped together. Small progress, but progress. That night, Virelia walked alone through the quiet parts of the base. She passed old paintings, scratched helmets, and broken machines. That had been turned into art. She reached the observation deck and found Elias staring at the stars. Couldn't sleep? She asked. He shook his head. Too many thoughts. She stood beside him. Do you always lead from the front? Someone has to, Elias said. The swarm doesn't care who's in charge. They kill everyone the same. They stood in silence for a moment. Then he looked at her. You're not what I expected from a queen. And you're not what I expected from a human, she replied with a smile. He chuckled. What did you expect? Someone loud, angry, arrogant. Well, I can be, depending on the day. They both laughed softly. Then Virelia grew serious. I used to think we didn't need anyone, that the Zalari were strong enough alone. But now I see, true strength comes when you stand with others. Elias nodded. We learned that the hard way. Unity doesn't mean being the same. It means fighting for the same goal. They looked out at the stars, and for the first time they didn't feel so different. But peace didn't last long. 2 days later, an emergency alert shook the base. A listening post near the rim sent a final message. Swarm, massive fleet moving fast, too many. Then silence. Elias called a council at once. Human and Zalari officers filled the room. They're coming here, Elias said, pointing at the map. They'll hit the rim in 2 days. After that, this base is next. We're not ready, Cora said. Half our ships are still damaged. We don't have a choice, Elias replied. Captain Trallin stepped forward. The Zalari ships can hold the front. Your human fighters can strike from the sides. It could work, Cora said slowly. If we hit them hard enough, fast enough. Elias turned to Virelia. Will your people follow your orders? They will, she said. Even if they don't trust you yet, they trust me. Elias gave her a hard look. Then let's show them something they've never seen before. He turned to the room. Humans and Zalari, together. We fight like hell. We protect this base. We show the swarm they're not the only nightmare out there. The room erupted in cheers. For the first time in galactic history, two enemies stood, side by side, not out of fear, but out of hope. As ships prepared for battle, Varelia stood on the command deck of her cruiser, watching human fighters launch into space. They moved like sparks, fast and unpredictable, and beside her, Elias Rain entered the room, wearing battle armor and holding a strange weapon made from both human steel and Zalari crystal. "Let's finish what we started," he said. She smiled. Together. The stars were quiet for a moment, but it was only the calm before the storm. From the edge of the rim, the Maltharak swarm came like a shadow. Hundreds of dark, insect-like ships moved together, glowing with sickly green light. Their engines made no sound, but everyone felt their arrival. Inside the command deck of the main cruiser, Queen Varelia stood beside Commander Elias Rain. Both watched the enemy fleet approach on the screens in front of them. "They're bigger than before," Elias said softly. Varelia nodded. "They've evolved again. Their wings are sharper. Their armor is thicker. And yet," he said, gripping the edge of the table, "we're still here." Outside, human and Zalari ships flew into position, together. No longer separate forces, but one fleet with a common goal. The swarm moved fast. The battle began. Laser beams and plasma bolts lit up space like fireworks. The Zalari ships formed tight formations, creating shield barriers. The human fighters flew in wild patterns, weaving between the swarm vessels, dropping mines and firing quick bursts. Explosions filled the black sky. Swarm pods burst open, releasing flying creatures with claws like saws. One dove toward a human ship, then was blasted apart by a Zalari cannon. In that moment, the alliance proved itself. Varelia watched the fight closely. Her heart beat fast, but her mind stayed calm. "Hold the line," she ordered. "Support the human wings. Rotate the flanks." Elias stood behind her, guiding his own teams. "Rhino Squad, break left. Firestorm, circle behind them. Don't. Stop moving." Together they directed the battle like a perfect rhythm. Zalari strength, human chaos, working as one. But the swarm didn't stop. A huge creature appeared near the core of the enemy fleet, twice the size of any other. Its body was wrapped in black metal and bone, its eyes glowing with cruel green fire. Varelia's voice dropped. "That is a hive commander." "I don't like the sound of that," Elias replied. "They lead the swarm's main fleets. Kill it, and the rest fall into confusion." "Then we hit the core," Elias said quickly. "Strike team, small, fast, armed, heavy, in and out." Varelia didn't hesitate. "I'll go." He turned sharply. "What? No! You're the queen." "I'm also the one who asked you for help," she said. "I won't hide while others die for me." Elias stared at her for a moment. Then he gave a slow, approving nod. Then, "I'm coming too." The strike ship was small and fast, half human, half Zalari design. Varelia and Elias sat side by side in the cockpit, with two elite fighters behind them. The ship blasted off from the cruiser, weaving through explosions and wreckage. The hive commander loomed ahead, guarded by a swarm of smaller vessels. "This is going to be tight," Elias said. Varelia smiled. "I prefer close calls." They broke through the first line. Swarm flyers scraped the hull. One of the escort ships exploded behind them. The rest pressed forward. Inside the hive commander's ship was darkness. Thick, wet walls pulsed like a living creature. The team moved carefully, weapons ready. They reached the command chamber, a round room filled with green light. In the center, floating in a tank, was the hive mind core, a brain-like mass connected to wires and glowing roots. Varelia raised her weapon. "That's it! We end this now!" Before she could fire, the chamber shook. From behind the tank, a figure appeared. Part machine, part creature, with long claws and a twisted face, the Hive Guardian. It charged. The team fought hard. Blasts of energy flew in all directions. The Guardian moved fast, slicing the air with deadly claws. One Zalari fighter fell. Elias rolled forward and fired into its side. Virelia struck from above, landing a clean shot to its chest. With a final cry, the Guardian collapsed. Virelia turned to the tank and fired. The core cracked, screamed, and burst into flames of green light. Outside, the swarm ships began to move in confusion. Some crashed into each other. Others simply froze. The command link was broken. The strike team escaped seconds before the ship exploded. Fire chased their tail as they raced back to the main fleet. Cheers echoed across human and Zalari channels. "We did it!" someone shouted. "The Hive commander is down!" On the command deck, both sides celebrated. The enemy was in retreat. The battle was won, but not without cost. Later, after the smoke cleared, Virelia visited the human med bay. Elias sat on a bed, his arm wrapped in bandages and a gash on his forehead. "You're lucky," she said softly. "A few inches lower, and you wouldn't be here." He smirked. "Guess I'm hard to kill." Virelia stepped closer. Her voice was quiet now. "Back in that mine, I was scared. Not just because I was hurt, but because I had never felt powerless before." Elias looked up at her. "You gave me something that day," she continued. "Not just my life. You gave me a reason to see things differently." Elias nodded. "And you gave me something today. Proof that we can change the galaxy together." Virelia opened her hand. She held the crystal shard from the mine, the one he had dropped 10 years ago. He stared at it. "You kept that?" She smiled. "Always." He looked into her eyes. For a long moment they said nothing. The war, the fear, the pride, they all faded. Only respect and something deeper remained. Outside, the Zalari and human ships flew side by side. Together, they had done the impossible. The galaxy was watching. The war wasn't over, but the message was clear. The age of isolation was ending, and the age of unity had just begun. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath. The news of the destroyed Hive commander spread like wildfire through the resistance forces. For the first time, hope burned brightly in many hearts, humans and Zalari alike. But the war was far from over. Queen. Virelia stood on the observation deck of the flagship, her eyes fixed on the swirling stars beyond the glass. Around her, the hum of engines and chatter of crew filled the room, but her thoughts were elsewhere. Beside her, Commander Elias Rain approached, limping slightly from his injury. "How are you feeling?" "Stronger than before," she replied. Turning to meet his gaze, he smiled, though the weight of command pressed heavy on his shoulders. "The victory gave us a chance, but the swarm will come back harder." Virelia nodded. "We must be ready." In the following days, the alliance between humans and Zalari grew stronger. Shared missions, joint training, and constant communication built trust where once there had been doubt. Still, tensions flared. Some Zalari officers whispered their distrust of humans. "They fight like animals," they said. Some human soldiers grumbled about the cold and rigid Zalari discipline, but Elias and Virelia worked tirelessly to unite their forces. "We're not just fighting for ourselves," Virelia reminded everyone at a gathering of officers. "We fight for the future, for a galaxy where we stand side by side," Elias added, "and for the promise that no one will be left behind." One night, Virelia received a message from her homeworld's council. The Zalari capital was uneasy about the alliance. Some powerful voices called her a traitor. She read the words silently, then turned to Elias. "They don't understand," she said. "They see this as weakness." "But unity is strength," Elias answered firmly. "They will see it too, or they will be left behind." Virelia clenched her fists. She had risked everything to be here, to build this new future. She wouldn't let old fears destroy it. Meanwhile, deep within the human command center, engineers worked on a new weapon, a hybrid of human ingenuity and Zalari technology. Virelia visited the lab, watching the young scientists and mechanics at work. "This will change the battle," she said. A weapon to strike deep into the swarm's heart. Elias stood beside her, pride clear in his eyes. "Together we create what none of us could alone." But the swarm was not idle. A distress signal came from the rim colonies. Entire worlds were falling under attack. The swarm was growing. Stronger and faster, Elias and Virelia gathered their commanders. "We must move quickly," Elias said. "We'll send a fleet to defend the colonies and protect our base here." Virelia looked around the room. "We fight not just for survival, but for hope." The fleet launched into the dark space, their engines blazing with determination. The battle at the rim was brutal. The swarm unleashed wave after wave of ships and creatures. The Alliance fought back with everything they had. Elias led the human fighters, darting through enemy lines like a ghost. Virelia coordinated the Zalari fleets, directing their shields and heavy firepower. The hybrid weapon was deployed, a powerful beam of energy that cut through the swarm like a blade through silk. Slowly, the tide began to turn. After the battle, Virelia and Elias stood among the survivors on a battered moon. The sky was filled with stars, and the silence felt heavy but hopeful. "We won this fight," Elias said. "But the war goes on." Virelia placed a hand on his arm. "And we will face it together." Their eyes met, unspoken understanding passing between them. The galaxy was changing. From the ashes of fear and war, a new alliance was born, one that could challenge even the darkest threats. As the ships prepared to move on, Virelia looked to the stars and whispered, "This is just the beginning." And somewhere deep in space, the swarm's broken forces retreated, but not defeated. The battle for the galaxy's future was far from over. The cold light of dawn crept over the horizon of the Zalari flagship. Inside the command room, Queen Virelia stood silent, watching the stars fade and the twin suns rise. Beside her, Commander Elias Rain prepared their final report to the Alliance Council. The galaxy had changed so much in just a few short months, from enemies to allies, from fear to hope. But the war was not yet finished. The swarm still lurked in the shadows of space, waiting to strike again. "Queen Virelia," Elias said, breaking the silence, "the council awaits your message." She turned and faced him. "We have fought hard. We have lost much, but we have won more than just battles." Elias nodded. "We have won trust." Virelia looked out at the fleet assembled below. Human and Zalari ships side by side, engines glowing with power. "Today," she said slowly, "we begin a new chapter for our people, one written not with blood and hate, but with courage and unity." Their message was clear and strong, across thousands of worlds, broadcast through human and Zalari networks. The Alliance declared peace with all who wished it, and war on those who threatened freedom. The galaxy listened. After the message, a meeting of the Alliance Council gathered. Virelia and Elias stood side by side before representatives from countless species. Many faces were unfamiliar. Some were cautious, others hopeful. But all were there for the same reason: survival. "Together," Virelia said, "we will build a future where no species is alone, where strength is measured not by power, but by how we protect each other." Elias added, "We are not perfect. We have made mistakes, but we choose to learn, to grow, to fight for a galaxy that belongs to all." The council erupted in applause. It was the loudest sound the fleet had heard in years. Later, as the meeting broke up, Elias and Virelia walked through the corridors of the flagship. The tension between them had eased. What once felt like a fragile alliance had grown into true partnership. "You saved my life," Virelia said softly. "10 years ago, and you saved ours," Elias replied. "Today," she smiled, a rare warmth shining in her eyes. "Do you think the galaxy is ready for this change?" He looked at her. "If not now, then when? Humans survive because we adapt, because we hope." Virelia nodded. "Then we will lead that hope." Suddenly, a warning sounded. The swarm fleet, though shattered, had regrouped. A new wave of ships appeared on the edge of the system. Elias grabbed his weapon. "Looks like our work is not done." Virelia stood, tall, her voice steady. "Then we will fight, but not as separate races. We fight as one." The fleet readied itself. Humans, Zalari, and many others prepared for the battle ahead. The battle was fierce, unlike any before. The swarm attacked with desperate fury, but the Alliance met them with unyielding strength. Virelia and Elias led from the front, inspiring their forces with courage and strategy. The new hybrid weapon struck again and again, piercing the swarm's dark shields. Slowly, the enemy retreated. After the battle, the Alliance stood stronger than ever. Virelia and Elias returned to the command deck, their faces tired but proud. "Today," Virelia said, "we have shown that even the darkest enemy can be defeated by unity." Elias looked at her. "And that no matter where we come from, we can stand together." They stood in silence, watching the stars return to peace. Weeks later, the Zalari homeworld sent emissaries. They came not with demands, but with respect. The council had changed. They saw the strength in unity. Virelia was named the Ambassador of Unity, tasked with spreading peace and alliance across the stars. Elias was honored as the hero of two worlds, a symbol of courage and hope. As they looked toward the future, Virelia and Elias knew the galaxy would never be the same. No longer divided by fear or pride, their peoples were connected by trust and friendship. The story of the alien queen and the human who saved her had become legend. A story of courage, a story of hope, a story of a new dawn.